Greetings, guys. It's Irish. Sorry I haven't been making some videos. It's been quite busy at work recently. Yeah, and just been busy doing housework and stuff like that. But thought I've been wanting to make this video for a while. I've been noticing a lot of stuff, uh, at least in my Linux world, that have been annoying the heck out of me. And I thought I would share it with you guys. Again, before I get started with this list, these are my opinions. You may agree or disagree. If you disagree, please don't take it too hard. Uh, it's just stuff that's just been really, gnawing at me. First thing is uh, distro hoppers. Now, I can see the point where if you're just starting off with Linux, you can try doing trying various distros. However, if you're if you've been on Linux for a while, say 6 months plus, and you're still distro hopping, I think you need to settle down because you've seen pretty much just like everything. I've been on Linux. In my eyes, I haven't been on Linux for that long. It's been about 6 years now. And all the distros that I've tried earlier on, they're pretty much the same thing as somewhat of the Gentoo. That the only thing that's different is their repo and it's their package manager. That's really it. There's the subsystem's the same. The commands are the same. You can do bash, you can do Z shell, you can do fish, you can do different shells that will get you different functionality, but the heart of it, it's the same thing. Uh, so why are there so many? Some people don't like the managerial style of one distro to the other, or they don't like RPM packaging, or they don't like deb packaging, or they just don't like source-based packaging, rolling, uh, structured release dates, stuff like that. I've just noticed that a lot of the hate and stuff comes from around there. But with I'm getting off on a tangent though. But distro hoppers, even if you're new, relatively new to uh, to Linux, even that would strongly suggest not to distro hop because you're really not going to gain a whole lot of stuff by blowing away your machines. And even if you kind of do it in a virtual machine, I still don't see the much benefit you're going to get from going distro to distro. There have been a couple people in the LDC over the years that it was before, flash drives. I was doing Google Hangout and this guy would have a stack of distros that he's been trying out. And even then, I think I was on either Fedora or Arch. Even then, I did not understand why he distro hopped so often. The second thing that's been really annoying me is I hang out in a lot of um, distros, IRC channels, i3 channel, Xmonad channel, stuff like that. People who are looking for help and they don't get it right away, they just leave. Or if they do get help, they argue against the help. Now, this has happened quite often actually in the LDC recently. A couple people have been trying to do like Gentoo and I think Arch, and we're very more welcome to uh, lend a hand, but this happened in the past with Arch, where this person wanted Arch, like you would work for hours and hours on Arch, and he would blow away the very next day. So all that time is wasted, and that annoys everyone. And especially now, there's a person who's been trying to do Gentoo, and there are times when you should just stay still. Like I could have stayed with Arch Linux. I had some valid reasons to get away from Arch. Gentoo is rolling, but it's not bleeding edge. With bleeding edge, there's always breakages. It could have breakages, or you may have to do other stuff. I've been on Gentoo for over a year. Yes, there have been breakages, but I'm not bleeding edge. I don't have to um, update like the kernel and stuff like that on here. I do have the 4.16.5, I believe, if I look sources. The latest one is zero point 0.8, so I could go to that kernel. I don't need to, though. I don't need to keep updating my kernel. Same thing with people with distros. They think they're getting bored with it, they're not learning, and then they go to another distro, say Gentoo or LFS. They don't like what they're doing, or they have issues, and then blow it away, go back to something else. Oh, it's laggy, blow that away again in a virtual machine, and then try to do it on bare metal. And especially when you're trying to get help from uh, from various like channels on the IRC, it doesn't sound like the person's listening and stuff like that. And you know, if you're not going to take the advice, don't go into a channel stating, "Hey, I need help with something." And if you don't really take that to heart, if you're not going to listen to the advice that's being given, then don't ask for help. I've I've had definitely needed help in Gentoo, in Arch, and all of my distros that I've ever done. I've always listened to the help because again, I've been on Linux for 6 years. I feel now that I'm in like intermediate to like starting to get over into the advanced section of it. I still don't know jack diddly squat compared to some of these other people who've been on a distro, say 8, 9, 10 years. I'm going to listen to them, especially if it's a brand new distro. So if I moved over to, say, Void Linux or Fedora and I had issues, I'm not going to be arrogant enough to think, oh, I know more than they do. So I'm not going to listen to any advice, what they're giving me, unless they've also been on the distros I've been on. I've been noticing that a lot. Uh, a lot of it's in Arch, a lot of it's in Fedora, some of the higher end distros. If you're not running such and such distro, then you're not running Linux. And I just cannot stand the arrogance that some people have. Everyone started off as a newbie, and even that term I hate. You've, you're always new to something, and if you learn from great people who help you, then you're going to learn a lot. I learned a lot from a guy on Google Plus, uh, and he's always willing to help. I had so many issues when I first started off in Arch that I questioned if I should even be on Arch. And I've kind of did that a little bit when I broke my Gentoo. Am I at that level where I can manage a Gentoo system successfully with minimal help? And I felt when the first time that I broke my system, I felt like that. So I know I'm doing a lot of rambling and stuff like that, but it's just a lot of stuff I just wanted to get off some of my chest. So if you're gonna ask for help in a channel, and listen to what they say, even if you think it is complete horse crap. But if multiple people are giving you the same advice, then I would say take it, because if you're gonna listen to like one person, yeah, you can maybe kind of question it if they don't know what they're doing. And Google search is okay to a certain extent, but I would not rely my troubleshooting ability on Google. I would rather listen to a person who has experienced that issue. I can always go into the wiki and stuff like that, but if I'm talking with someone that has experienced it, I'm going to ask them instead of going read the effing manual. So that's you get that a lot with the higher end stuff. Arch, obviously there's a meme for it. So that's just that's probably one of the bigger ones that I've been seeing in a lot of these channels. So the other one is more YouTube uh, centric. So I've been on YouTube for 2 years and I've built close to 2,000 subscribers, which to me is awesome. Now, I've done some videos on i3, I've done some videos on Arch installs, and I don't have, granted, I don't care too much about the view counts, but I don't understand why some videos of the same nature get more views than the other. So, say, for example, let me get to my YouTube channel here. So, say I did my video on i3. That was about 6 months ago, and I have 2.3 thousand views so far. But say another person does a video on it, and they get like 10,000 views in like 2 weeks. Why does that person get more views than the other? It's more, I've been noticing that a lot with a lot of Arch installs. I've done a few Arch installs. The latest one I did straight through right here. I have 838 views, but if you just type in Arch install, Arch Linux install, it really hasn't changed that much. 30,000 views in 2 months, 112,000 views in 1 year. Why such a discrepancy? I've done the same exact stuff that they did. I, Granted, they might have a higher view count, but even still, I'm a lower end channel, but why do some videos get more views than others? Granted, anytime I get one view, I'm happy. As long as one of you guys learns something off of my videos, I'm a happy person. But I just still don't understand why some channels get more views than others. A lot of it, I would love to see some of these higher end YouTube channels do restart fresh, well, fresh, type of fresh, and just do what I've been doing, like a lot of tutorials on getting stuff up and running, like my HP printing on Gentoo, or my BSPWM config, Xmonad config. I've built it on niche, hyper niche stuff, granted, but if I really cared about views, I would do a lot of stuff on Ubuntu. Because if you type in Ubuntu, how to install whatever, say Ubuntu 17.10, 199,000 views, 775 views in 6 months. So if I really cared about view count, then I would do a lot of Ubuntu stuff. But I would love to see some of these like YouTube video reviewers of distros try to get a channel going on tutorials. I don't really do a whole lot of uh, reviews because personally I find them boring as hell. If you're kind of a new person or maybe questioning if you should try a distro, spin up a virtual machine and try it yourself. Listening to someone else's views on a distro is not going to persuade you yes or no on it. Now, I started off watching a lot of reviews because I didn't know anything about it, and that's where I gained a lot of my knowledge was based off of some of the distro reviews. But if I would do it again, I don't think I would watch as many distro reviews because all it is people going into a desktop, clicking on the start button, stating what's in there, which a lot of it's standard now, and saying, okay, there you go, that's my distro review. I've done maybe 4 videos on specific distros, but I've done them a little differently. I don't say, okay, it comes with this, this, and this. I do some research, and some of the stuff I've said has been incorrect. Like in my Slackware video, I said it's like the port system, like in the BSDs, and that's not correct. And I feel bad for saying stuff like that. Or in Void, I couldn't find the year that it was created in. So I based it off of a lot of stuff that I found on like a basic Google search. So again, no one's gonna persuade you one way or the other to, hey, try Ubuntu, try Fedora, try OpenSUSE. A lot of the stuff is based off of like there are times I do feel like I should try Ubuntu or not Ubuntu, OpenSUSE, just because there's a new release coming. I want to see what it looks like, but I don't need to watch someone going onto their system and doing okay in Ubuntu 17.04. They have this type of kernel. They have this. They again, a lot of it is the same crap, just recycled. It, not just in Ubuntu's, but Fedora's, OpenSUSE. That's what I've loved about the ones you build yourself because you can put whatever you want on here. I have Steam on here. I have LibreOffice on my Gentoo, but if I don't want those, I don't need them. Granted, you can take away any of these things that come pre-installed on these distros, but there's still a lot of cruft on them. And with, I just don't understand. Again, getting off tangents. I do apologize. I just don't understand the viewership that some people get. Because to me, a lot of the ones that do just strictly distro reviews, I don't think they're not too like experienced in Linux. That's what I've gathered on some of them. I know Quidsup does a lot of distro reviews, and I know he's a security specialist. But there are other upcoming ones that you may follow them, but they may have just started alongside you. So how can you agree or how can you believe what they're saying unless you try it yourself? The only one that I follow is Linux Scoop, and they just do a basic overview. And even that's boring to me. I usually watch those when I want to fall asleep. But it's just little stuff like that has been annoying me, and just I'm sure there's going to be a lot more stuff that's going to annoy me really soon, but that's just stuff I've been noticing. A lot of elitism in the Linux distro community, or not LDC, in a lot of Linux communities. That crap needs to go. I'm sorry. No one's that high up on their high horse that they think they know everything about it. I've installed Linux from scratch. I don't think I know anything. And if any of you think Linux from scratch is that hard, it's really not. As long as you can follow instructions, it's not that hard to do. Everyone thinks it's this big monumental achievement, and I don't feel it is. But that's my own views. Give like don't always believe what the majority of people think of a distro because a lot of crap gets shuffled out there. A lot of Ubuntu hate. Ubuntu, what would you rather be on? Ubuntu, Apple, or Windows? If those were the only three distros or only three operating systems out there, I'm going to assume a lot of people would stick to Ubuntu. So I don't understand why Ubuntu gets all this hate. I don't understand why everyone makes a big deal off of installing Arch either. I've said that in my Arch, saying goodbye to Arch video. I don't understand it. It's not that difficult to install. The instructions are well laid out there. If you want to do it vanilla, there's a bunch of installers, so installing Arch is not that big of a deal anymore. Same thing with Gentoo. Gentoo is not that difficult as long as you take your time, read the documentation word for word, deviate when you need to, like in kernel configs and your make.conf. Other than that, it is pretty straightforward. Also, if you are needing Wi-Fi, if you have a specific hardware that you have that you want to put Gentoo on, okay, that might be a little bit more difficult, but I'm sure there's documentation for it. As long as you follow the documentation, you should be fine. It's not that difficult, and I feel if, like, once I moved to Gentoo, I did not feel more superior than anyone else out there. I'm sorry, I've noticed a lot of people thinking that they're this super high rolling person in the Linux world because they're running Gentoo. I've had my preconceptions of Gentoo and Arch before moving over to them, but you um, as soon as you move over to them, it's not that bad. I'm going to make an analogy. I am a black belt in Taekwondo. Actually, I'm a fourth degree black belt in Taekwondo. When you reach black belt, that doesn't mean you know everything. That doesn't make you a master. I'm a fourth degree black belt, so that's 4 levels higher than just solid black belt. I'm not a master. If I'm a ninth degree black belt, I'm still not a master. You're always going to be learning. I think that once you reach Arch, Gentoo, some of the higher end Slackware, you're just learning a whole new level of Linux. I've known black belts who can't do basic forms in my martial arts style, and that's pathetic. That does not make them a good black belt. That doesn't make them a master. Black belts should be mastery of the basics, but even then, you're not. You could always improve. Same thing in the Linux world. You can always improve. You can always learn more shit. Pardon my mouth, but you can always learn more stuff. Either from me, I learned a lot of stuff from Das Gregor and Meshi. Those guys I feel are really good at managing their systems. They know what they're talking about. They have a higher sub count than me, but compared to some of the other people out there, they're really unknown still. So never never think that you know everything just because you've reached a certain distro or a certain level of your knowledge. You could always learn more stuff. There's been IT people in my company who've been doing it all their lives and they're still learning new stuff. Never never think that you've reached the peak of a knowledge base because you could always break it. So, all right, this probably has long gone a little over than I wanted to. So, but let me know what stuff has annoyed you guys in the Linux world. I think once you unleash some of it, you'll start, if you actually look around in the Linux world, you can actually see some stuff that just probably has to go, or at least needs to make mention of. So, but in my next video, I think I'm going to show you guys my kernel config, and how you can configure your own kernel, not specifically in Gentoo, but in just in general, because you can take it from the linux.org website and you can create your own custom kernel, and you can bring it over to different distros if you decide to go to different distros. So, but that's all I have, and I will catch you guys later.